Right. So I'm talking to Ivan Nuñez Del Prado here again, because I'm constantly asking these questions with Ivan. I thought it's probably just easier recording it so that other people can listen to these things as well. But I'm doing a lot of research around Wañuy at the minute, and I wanted Ivan to answer some questions for me. And one of the questions is what happens after we die, and that 8-day period, in the Andean tradition, just after you die. So can you talk a wee bit about that?
Sure. Let me just. Yeah. Well, the, everything starts, of course, with the process of dying. When your body ceases working, you lose your body, and that's what starts a new process of transformation in you. You know? The tradition says, as you know, that we are body, soul, and spirit. So the unit made of out of body, soul, and spirit is the human being and the human life. So when you lose your body, you lose one of these three factors. Then this takes you into another stage, into another uh, part of your own process. Tradition says that as soon as your body stops working, your body dies, then your soul and your spirit are going to stay together for a while. For a little while, the tradition says, traditionally is considered that they are still together for 8 days, a little bit more like than a week. And in that time, you will have to do some things, basically to close your INE, all the processes of reciprocity that were triggered during your life needs to be taken to an end. And then when you close that, your soul and your spirit split again. The soul stays as the memory of your life that is kept in the collective memory, in the memory of your group. You can have a great life if you did so. You build a big soul, and then people will remember you for a long time. If you have a just normal life, people, your family, your dear ones will remember you, but still your memory will stay in the collective pool of the memory of the people who live. And then your spirit will move on and transcend this level and move to the Hanak Pacha and continue the existence there. Of course, you will keep your identity and the memory of your life because it's a continuous process, but then you will live in an only a spiritual, non-material level. That's what the traditions say.
Mm. And your identity then, it's kind of like part of your identity stays in the soul, which is your bubble, your pakpo that's left in the earth, but your identity goes with the seed,
The
the
thing is that your identity is everything you build across your life, all your experience, your knowledge, and everything, and who you are. So the tradition says that the memory of that remains on earth. It's like an impression. So you were there, like taking a picture. Okay, you were in the world, so the earth keeps an image of you. It's not really you. It's like in a picture. When you take a picture, you don't take the soul of another person. Some people believe that you can do so, but you don't. But the thing is, this image remains. There is a memory in the tradition says that is kept on the earth, in the physical material earth, that will keep the information or keep certain knowledge related with yourself. Like,
Mhm.
okay, so it's like it's a memory. It's not really your soul, but it's a memory. And the tradition considers that this can be then a source for helping other people, for people to learn from that. People who wants to connect with you, they can find your own energy in the ground
Mhm.
and maybe learn from that.
Mhm.
And then you
So,
can continue helping people even if you are not anymore in this world.
so the souls of people that may have died, like in a Holocaust, say, the souls of them some for all of them could be still in the ground, or are some of them being released back to the Hanak Pacha?
Traditions say that all the people who existed ever leaves a mark on the ground, and this memory stays there.
Mm-hmm.
Is, I think, what in psychology is called the collective unconscious. It's
Mm-hmm.
the memory of the history of the human beings, of the humankind, that is made by the integration of all the memories of all the people who ever lived.
Mm. And so that sometimes, like, so for example, like, if you were at Auschwitz, weren't you?
Sorry?
Were at Auschwitz, were you, or at one of the concentration camps somewhere?
Yeah, we have been working in some of them.
And the um, did you feel hucha, a lot of hucha from the
Yes,
souls?
yes, but not from the soul, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but of course, it's part of this. Yeah, it's both. The places were loaded with heavy energy related with what happened to these peoples in those places. The
Mm-hmm.
tradition also says that when something very bad takes place in a place, the place can keep the memory of the energy.
Mm.
So you can perceive it there.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then going back to when the seed and the pakpo, but so the muhu and the pakpo separate, so it's the spirit and the soul separate. The spirit goes back to God. Um, and it has your identity in it also.
Yeah.
And does it continue to grow? What happens then? Because I know the tradition doesn't say about reincarnation, but
Yeah, the tradition, basically, we don't believe in reincarnation.
mm-hmm,
It's not part of our beliefs. No, there's nothing, there's not a concept of reincarnation as such.
mm-hmm,
Traditions say that you are created as a unique human being by different factors of that your soul and your spirit and your body. Then you live your life, and then you continue, and then you move to a higher level, to the Hanak Pacha or the heavens if you want, and then you will continue living there, and you will stay there, and sometimes you may come down again, but not reincarnating, just in spirit.
mm-hmm,
Okay? And then go back to the heaven where you now live. Let's say you are in a different stage of your life. The tradition don't consider in the reincarnation as such. It's not that you are going to come back.
so it's
And
not
all the,
it's
and
not
all this, sorry. Yes.
it's not considered then. So that's just not part of the belief system. But it's not to say it's not. I suppose whatever you believe is what you believe.
Is the beliefs. And of course, it is another way of believing. It doesn't mean that it is right or wrong, or if it's true or not. It's
Mm-hmm.
part of the systems of beliefs, and the system of beliefs of the Andes does not include the reincarnation as such. Hmm? You come from something, but the tradition says that every soul that comes to the earth is a new one and is
Mm-hmm.
created new, and then lives an existence, and then continues the life in heaven when you die.
Right. Okay. Right. And then I wanted to ask you about, so that those 8 days when you're kind of after you die, and is it the soul and the spirit are still there, but the body is has died? And in that time you make good with your aini.
Yes.
Um,
You know, the idea is about giving and receiving. And your life is a continuous interchange with people, with energies, with the spirits and everything.
mhm,
And the idea is that the tradition says that as you come to this world without any debt, you know, so you don't carry to these life stories of the past of your own, you should leave this place without carrying any debts either. So somehow you have to take everything to an end. You have to close your aini, let's say, they say. So the idea is you will have to close the acts of reciprocity that were triggered in your life. And this time is for that. For example, if somebody did something nice to you, you can reciprocate doing something for that person. You can make a healing or make something nice for the person. In that way, you will take for yourself the thing to your eye to a closure. So you will not carry any guilt, you will not carry any debt. You will close everything and live light without any attachment to this life. If the term can be used. Okay, so in these 8 days that your spirit and your soul are together, without the limitations of the body, you will be able to do amazing things. And so you can do and solve all the things that were left without closure in your life and close it and finish with it. So you can transcend and leave this place without attachment.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of explains a lot. And then I wanted to ask you about Silistani. So I've been to Silistani with you and Juan, and so there's quite a few things around there that we did. So we went into the Chulpa, the tombs, and so this would have been where the Inca and Koya, the kings and queens, would have been buried.
Yeah, basically, Siyustani is a royal cemetery. For that place is next to the Titicacalé in the high plains of Peru. And for more than 1,000 years, this place has been the burial place for the rulers of this area. For not only the Inca times, much before the Incas, in the Koya times, and the Tiahuanaco cultures that were involved before the Incas, they used this place as a burial place. It's a royal cemetery. So the people who was buried there was the most important people, and of course, they built nicer and nicer buildings, tombs with the time. And those are the chulpas. Those are tombs, but they are very luxurious ones. There's big ones made with stones, and the most recent ones that you have seen them. They have Inca architecture, and they are massive. They're huge, and it is because they were tombs for kings. It's the equivalent of a pyramid in Egypt.
So that would have been the Inca and Koya just from that area, do you think, or were the ones from like Cusco? And
There's no record that no, it's not from that area. There's no record that an Inca, a ruler of the Inca Empire, was buried there. But
okay.
yes, the high dignities of the place were for sure buried there. The kings of the Koyas and the kings, even in the Inca times. So because you can see it in the architecture of the chulpas that that's Inca architecture. It's a royal. It's a imperial Inca architecture. So you can tell for sure that this place was still in use in the Inca times, and this was a place to make ritual funerals, no, royal funerals. So of course, in that place, the rituals about the dead, like the Wañuy or other rituals, maybe were performed. And this is a structure as a very particular place because I don't know if you remember the place is like a little peninsula surrounded by a lake. Okay, and this lake is called the Umayu Lake, the head lake. And in front of the cemetery, there's an island in the middle of the lake. And on top of this island, there's a number, hundreds of circular temples, ritual places, obviously. But this is not the burial place. So it is related with the transcendence and the image that we have of the transcendence. No, it is the living, the material world, and your body in one side, crossing a body of water, like in the tradition we talk about this border. The Hurcan is a river, a symbolical river, and then at the other side is where the new life and the new stage, I mean the spiritual life, starts.
Mhm.
So this place was using under those terms. It's a place to help the souls, or to help the spirits to transcend. In a
Mhm.
certain way, honor the soul in the place, keep the memory, keep the body and the mummy and the tomb, and then help the spirit to go to the next level because they have to continue their travel. So
Mhm.
under the Inca cosmovision, it's really a ritual place to help people to transcend, to go on, to move
Mhm.
on to the next life.
Mhm. And with the Inca and Koya, I have two questions in my mind here. Every time you talk, I'm like thinking more and more questions. Um, the Inca and Koya, so they would have saved some of the ashes from the Inca and Koya that was kept in the puncha.
That was a particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Incas, the rulers of the empire, the Inca times, they were mummified.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Incas used several kinds of burial ceremony. You can be buried in the ground, you can be burnt in some occasions, and burn your body, and sometimes you were mummified. And this was only for high dignity. So the kings were mummified. And then it
Mm-hmm.
was a complex thing because they become a waka. The body was kept and was taken to the house of the Inca. And in a certain way, they continue ruling their Panaca, their royal family, through the body. And there were some kind of specialists who were able to, let's say, channel the will of the Inca from the heaven
Mm-hmm.
through the mummy and then address their group, advise and guide their group. So in a certain way, even after they die, they continue ruling their family, the royal
Mm-hmm.
family. And so that was the cult of the Incas. Of course, in the early 16th century, there was a huge process of cleaning of Inca icons and symbols that was called extirpation of idolatries, I think, and they burn and destroy all the icons that were left during the next century after the conquest. So then there were no more mummies. Okay. But
Mm-hmm.
the idea of the transcendence and the continual living after this life, in a new level, was constant. And that's the way we see it.
Mm-hmm.
Then the river is something also important. The boundary between this world and the other world is called Hurkan Mayu. Hurka means promise or commitment. So this river, at the end of your life, is symbolically the place where all the commitments get to an end. So all your promises, all your commitments will get to an end there, and then you can transcend free. So it stops. No? It's another way to detach from the life in the world as it was for you, and then move to the spiritual life free of any debt, any attachment.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of the ways that you transcend. The because I was looking up my notes and I remember there was the dog. You have to look for what was it the
There are
dog?
several ones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Can you
there are
speak about that?
several ones. For me, the most symbolical, the most powerful, is the one of the dog. Now, the tradition says that when you die, after you leave your body in the ground and it goes back to Mother Earth, you are supposed to walk to the end of this world, to the border.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the world, there is a town. It's called the Unukara Yakta, okay? Which is the Yakta means town or okay, town, and Tekara is another name for the dogs. It's a ritual name for dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Kara Yakta is the paradise of the dogs, because in our tradition, not only human beings but all the animals have transcendental souls. So there's a paradise for the dogs, there's a paradise for the llamas and the cats and for everyone else, and of course there's a paradise for us too. So when you die, you have to walk to this place and look for a dog friend. Normally, a dog you own, you have or take care during your life, to look for help, because the river you need to cross, the Hurkan Mayu, It's a very wild river and it's difficult to cross. But the dogs know the way. So you need help for that, and a dog that was your friend in your life can help you with that. Will be willing to help you and actually take you to the other side. The tradition says that you are going to ride your dog. Of course, without a body, there's not size problems in there. There's not size conflict. So you will ride your dog, the tradition says, to the who is going to take you to the other side and drop you, give you a ride and give you and drop you at the other side. And then you will move on and the dog will come back to his own paradise.
Mm-hmm.
That is a way to show the transcendence. The tradition says that the dog know the way, how they know how to cross and return back in
Mm-hmm.
certain way. I That's my thing. It doesn't come from the tradition. As you know, dogs approach us more or less 30,000 years ago. Dogs who were wild animals like wolves approached the human beings and they came to us. They decide to move to live with us. And to be able to do that in certain way, they have to die their wildest part because a dog needs to be tamed and needs to learn how to live with humans. So certain wild and instinctive part of the dog needs to die when they move to you, with you. And I think that's my thinking. That's why the dog is the one who can cross the river back and forth and who can take you there. And
Mm-hmm.
so then once you cross the river of the commitments and you are free of any commitments, no debts, nothing to carry, no attachments, then you can continue walking. And the other side is the Hanakpacha, the upper world. And then you move to an entirely spiritual life and you are taking your identity with you. You never lose your identity because it is, let's say, in your spirit. Your spirit is who carries your identity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will take your identity with you to the heaven in a spirit and continue your life there as you are. You are going to remember your name, you are going to remember how you were, and even the tradition says that the spirit will keep the memory of your body. And how
Mm-hmm.
can we tell that? Because when somebody has a vision of a person, of a deceased one, they can recognize the person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that people who's dead doesn't have a body anymore. So what you see, in certain ways, is a reflection of the memory that your seed kept of how you look when you were alive. Because not having a body, there's not looks anymore, really. So what people can see and how can people recognize you when you are dead is because your memory keep even the memory of how you used to look when you were alive, how you used to look when you have a body.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the tradition says. So it keeps your memory, even your looks, even the memory of your body and how you were completely. And you take that with you in a spirit to the heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how more or less is explained the transcendence to this life. There
Mm-hmm.
are other possibilities, as you mentioned before. No?
Mm-hmm.
Another, which is also very nice, is that you can, after you die, you can walk to an apple, to a mountain. Well, the tradition says that you will walk to the apple who is next to you, the closest one, the main mountain, main spirit that is close to you. And then you will try to climb up this mountain. And trying to climb, you are going to fall several times. And every time you fall down, you're going to release some hucha, some heavy things from you. So in certain ways, a process of purification.
Mm-hmm.
Falling down over and over and climbing again, you will make yourself lighter and refine your energy. And when you arrive to a certain level, you are going to be able to climb up to the very top. And when you climb up and reach the top, you will transform, change into a bird. Any kind of bird can be in this case. And then you will fly to the upper world. So in the spirit, you will go and fly yourself into the upper world.
Mm-hmm.
That's another possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Another little bit more dramatic that we have found is that if you die, you can to transcend. In order to transcend, you can climb up a volcano. Okay. And then when you reach the top, you are going to jump into the lava of the volcano. And the lava and the fire there are going to burn all your huchas, clean you again, purify you. And then you are going to be spit up and sent by the volcano and the fire to the upper world, to the heaven.
Mhm.
But you can see there's always a process of purification, of cleaning at the end of your life. But
Yeah.
it's not necessary because you are carrying something evil. No, it's more like, as the river name tells us, you may be carrying some attachments, some promises or commitments you did that you need to leave before. If you are still committed to your family and your friends, your children, or with the life on earth, you are not yet ready to transcend.
Mhm.
So I interpret that that is what you need to leave and let go before going to the heaven. And the tradition gives you a time, a process, and a moment to do that. And as a Paco, you can learn how to do that. And what the Wañuy is about, to train you to be able to make this transcendence process more consciously, more easily, without sufferance, to prepare yourself because sooner or later we all are going to die. So it's better to be ready.
Mhm.
It's part of the Paco training to learn how to die properly and consciously.
Mm. And isn't there one of the transcendent stories about reconnecting with your guiding star?
That's another possibility, but is more restricted to very special people.
Mhm.
That is, let's say, only for Pacos. Why? A Paco is the practitioner of the tradition. Is somebody who's been trained in the knowledge and in the details of the tradition. And as you know, as a Paco, during your life as a Paco, you need to choose one star in the heaven. So in
Mhm.
certain moment of your life, you're going to look in the sky and choose one star. This star is not given to you. You have to choose it.
Mhm.
And this is going to be your guiding star. So across your life, you're going to use this as guidance. And what a little bit can mean to choose a star. A star is a big purpose for your life. For example, you decide that in your life you want to be a teacher. You want to be a spiritual teacher. That can be your start. That can be a big goal for your life. Or you can be a healer, or you
Mhm.
can be a scientist or a saint, whatever you decide to be. But it's a
Mhm.
big goal for you. So when you make that life decision and you finally say, because it takes years, you don't make it when you are a teenager. Sometimes you make it when you are in your 40s, okay? When you finally decide what are you going to make with your life. That is your start. And then
Mhm.
from that moment, in the tradition, the Pacos do that, not everybody. You will choose one star and connect with the star, that star, and this for the rest of your life is going to be your guiding star. It's going to
Mhm.
help you and point to the main direction of your life. So in every moment of your life, you will be aware of what you're doing. If
Mhm.
you decide to be a great master, then your purpose is the learning and the sharing of this knowledge with people, for example. That is
Mhm.
your star. Or being a healer. So it's a personal decision. That's why you choose your star. And then
Mhm.
while you're doing that, you're going to build a connection in between you and the star, what is called the sacred cord. And the tradition says that when you die, you are going to be able to see that cord. And then you will be able to realize that you are dead, realize that that is your way out, because that's the way to transcend. You are going to grab that cord and leave immediately without the necessity of making process of purification or cleaning, because as a Paco, you are supposed to be cleaning yourself all the time. And you should
Mhm.
not be carrying these bargains on you when you die because you already prepared for that. So then, in
Mhm.
certain way, as a Paco, you should be ready then. No further process needed, so you can just grab the second and the cord and leave and go away immediately. That's another possibility, but is more restricted to Pacos, to practitioners who actually know the meanings of all those things.
mm, mm,
And the star finally is not where you are going to move. It's not that you are going to go to live in that star. It is just a pointer,
mhm,
because this star is part of the heavens. But highly probably, this will be part of the Milky Way
mhm,
in the heaven, doesn't matter. So in the heaven, your star is there, and then you use your star as a pointer, because where you go, the world of the dead is beyond the star. So the
mhm,
star. So you will go through the star and then move on and then go on to the spiritual world, which is the
mm,
Hanakpacha.
mm,
Because the Milky Way is in the sky, the Hurcanmayo. In the tradition, we call the Milky Way the Hurcanmayo, this river that separates the world of the Caipacha from the Hanakpacha.
mm,
So it's another way to cross the river,
mhm.
but in a much more conscious way than the others, because you're a Pacuan, you were trained for that.
Yeah. So it's like a cosmic river then, this Horkanmayu.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the Hurcanmayo is it's a cosmic river, it's a symbolical river,
Mm,
and is the separation between the material world and the spiritual world.
mm-hmm.
In the very old times, the Incas didn't know more than the fact that the stars and the sun and the moon were in the sky. They thought they were very close to us. Now we know that there's a lot more behind. There are galaxies and other things and the whole universe there. But as far as it is material, it is still Caipacha. The Hanakpacha is only spiritual, so it is beyond the material reality. Anyway, is far away. And that's what the point is with the Hurkanmayu. It's a transcendence to another plane, to another level, far from the material world.
Mm, okay. And I keep getting back to this, probably because it's not that I keep thinking about reincarnation as well, and it's so with the seed, your seed has your will in it as well. So I mean, if you decided that you're living the life of a Paco, but you get to the end of your life and you decide, and then you go back to God, and then you decide, do you know what? I actually quite enjoyed that. I'd like to go back and do another lifetime. you,
No, that's not a possibility. At least not in the traditional
Mhm,
way.
mhm,
They say that you move to the heaven, that the gates between the heaven and the earth are not closed. So from time to time you can come down and bring messages to the people in the Caipacha from God. So in
mm,
certain way you become a messenger between this world and the heaven,
mm,
but you live up there. Okay,
mhm,
we have traditionally in the Day of the Dead, okay, people offers food to the dead ones who are supposed to come down to the earth that day. They all come down to the earth that day, and they have dinner with the family, and then they spend a day there and in the house, and then the next day they return back to the heaven. So at least once a year, you are allowed to come down and bring messages from the heavens, and also take messages to God from your people, from your loved ones.
mm.
Okay? But you live there.
Yeah.
And it's not contemplated, as I told you. That's a system of beliefs. And it's a
Mhm,
complete system of beliefs. So it doesn't include those kind of exceptions. You cannot go to God and tell, no, I would like to go down. It's not open for that. It says
mhm,
it happens like that, and this is it. Which doesn't mean that it is right or wrong, or it's true or not. It is just a system of beliefs.
mhm,
And maybe you believe in a different way, you're welcome. But the truth is, no one can tell whether if this is the true or not, unless if you go there.
exactly.
And in the world, there are different ways of believing about how is going to be the life after life. There are different descriptions of that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and usually those descriptions are made by the traditions, by the people. But the great masters in the world, they don't say how the life after life is going to be. But all the great masters in the world, like Jesus, like Muhammad, like, okay, they all say that there is something more. There is more. It doesn't end with the death of your body. There is more. There are different versions about how it is and how, what is going to happen to your soul or your spirit. But the truth is, nobody really knows. That's why there are so many versions, because if we will know one version and one way, which is the real one. It remains as a system of beliefs. But in the Andean system of beliefs, there is no reincarnation, which doesn't necessarily have to prevent you from practicing the tradition, because you don't have to let go your beliefs. You know, our exercises are practices with the energy that can help you to improve your life in here. So even with a system of beliefs that is different than ours, you can also practice the exercises. And then eventually we all are going to find out what it was really when we die.
Okay.
So it remains like that.
Yeah. Great. And so the actual process of Wañuy when you're doing the actual exercise, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, basically, are you still there? Basically, the exercise of the Wanyu is very simple. You are going to start with making a Samin Chakwi. You're going to pull the light energy down, make it flow through yourself, and create a flow of like energy through you, and send the flow down into the earth. So, and then you are going to rise the quality of the energy of this flow in you until you touch what we call Hampi Munai. Munai, as you know, is the power of love, and Hampi Munai is a very specific frequency, a very high quality of the power of the energy of Munai. In the training, as you know, you are going to be teach how to make that Munai, how to connect with that Munai, and then how to recreate this quality in you. The teaching is you are supposed to have access to this energy, to this quality of energy, which is called Munai. And with the help of the Munai, you are going to be able to do the next, which is to just first imagine or visualize one circumstance that potentially may end with yourself dying. In certain way, you are going to settle yourself to die in that circumstance. Once you decide for that, you're going to imagine that circumstance, and you're going to search for any possible hucha, block, that emerges from that picture. And carefully, you're going to clean that from you, especially paying attention to your body. Where in your body you feel anything heavy in relationship with what you are dealing with. And then clean yourself. When you feel that you are light enough, then you are going to allow yourself to die in the picture you are using. Normally, for every exercise we do, for every time we practice this exercise, we are going to choose one picture, one potential circumstance that will end up with ourselves dying. And then in that picture, you allow yourself to die. So you imagine yourself dying and letting your body behind, and then you visualize or you connect energetically better with what is the life after life. You try to make a connection with what is beyond that, after that veil. And then when you make that connection, you are going to bring back afterwards certain experience. Now, once you have connected with that, it's not going to be so strange for you. It's going to be more and more familiar. And then you will know what the process is like. So it is a training. Step by step is going to make you familiar with the process and the elements that are emerged and related with dying. And after connecting with the other side, you are going to go back to your chair, to your Sami Chakoi, put yourself together. If you get some hucha on the process, clean again, and then finish it.
Mm.
And so it's going to prepare you, take you to cross this process, and then bring you back to where you were before as an exercise. That is the Wañuy.
Mm. Okay, great.
Hmm.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Ah, you're very welcome.